Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. My name is Alexandra Alvarado, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Education at the American Apartment Owners Association. We are thrilled today to have with us two very special guests that will be talking about IoT in real estate. Some of you have asked me, what is IoT? Don't worry, you're going to find out very soon what it is and how it can benefit your rental properties. Before we get started, I just want to mention a few things. This meeting is being recorded and we will send you the full recording tomorrow by the end of the day. So if you miss anything, don't worry about it too much. Just try to stick around as long as you can, because at the end of the presentation, we will be taking questions and our two guests will be answering them. They are experts in this field, so I do highly encourage you to ask your questions and make sure to put them in the question box in the Zoom, not the chat. The question box helps us because it helps us keep track of which questions have been answered. So make sure you're putting any questions in there, and then we'll take a look and answer them at the end of the presentation. And I'll also share with you tomorrow a way to get in contact with both of our speakers if you do have any follow-up questions or anything else you'd like to review with them. So with that being said, thank you so much, Rebecca and Himanshu, for coming on to the webinar today to speak to our members. I'm going to pass it along to both of you to get started.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra. And good afternoon, everyone. We're really happy to be here today. So the webinar topic today is called How Demand for IoT-Enabled Technology is Really Transforming Rental Properties. And as Alexandra mentioned earlier to me, some of you may have asked, what is IoT? And really, it's just about the introduction of smart technology. And what we're really going to kind of walk you through is really trends that have really accelerated smart technology and some solutions of how you can introduce those into your properties. So a little bit about us today, just so that everyone's aware. My name is Rebecca Peterson, and I'm the Group Product Manager for our access control business here at LiftMaster. Now, most of you may know LiftMaster from a garage door opener if you've ever lived in a home, but really LiftMaster has been providing access into many different segments for over 50 years, whether it be a home, a commercial building, a gated entrance, and why we're talking today is really to a multifamily rental property. Now, I have a background in engineering, so I like to say that I use a little bit of my left brain and my right brain. I kind of balance it out. But I really am extremely passionate about delivering new product solutions, understanding customer pain points, and delivering really high impact solutions. And that's really my passion. I've got an MBA in marketing, and I've been doing this for over 10 years. Joining me today is Himanshu Caplash. He's our senior product manager, also in the access control business. Now, he's worked for a lot of different companies in the real estate technology market, recently at Latch and at ARM. He also has an engineering degree and also has an MBA. So today we're really here to spend time with you to really educate you on how you can introduce smart technology into your spaces. So let's just walk through what we're going to talk about today. We've got a pretty packed agenda, but it's important for us to first start talking about the generations within the rental market and their demands. Then we're going to talk a little bit about, what is really the Internet of Things and what you kind of need to know, the value that really provides then to owners and managers as you're managing, whether it's one property or multiple properties, and then how your peers are looking about IoT. Then I'm going to hand it over to Himanshu, just so you know, he's going to really talk to you about what are those top 5 things when it comes to smart technology and IoT that people are really using in these multi-property spaces, and then giving you some steps about how you can introduce it into your space. Now, as Alexandra mentioned, we are going to leave time at the end for Q&A, but if you do have questions as we're going along, feel free to put them in that Q&A little tab in Zoom. That'll help, so we can tabulate it there. And then we're going to make sure to answer as much as we can for you today. Okay, so we've got a pretty packed agenda. I hope you really enjoy this session. And we're going to get kicked off here. So let's talk about the generations at a glance, because it's important to understand how the different demographics in the rental profile can really drive the technology needs. Now, I really don't know who's attending here today, but it's always funny when I see these type of charts when I start to think about like, oh, I guess I fall under that millennial category, even though I don't feel I am one. But it's really interesting to see how, like, when we talk about the smart technology and the market trends, in particular, what I like to focus on is the Gen Y, the millennials, and the Gen Zers. If you look at the amount of the Gen Yers in the space, or in the US, really, it's 71 million, 45% of them are renters, so really large population. But if you look at Gen Zers, really, they call them the Zoomers, they're a really large population, 23 million, and as they're getting older and coming into that renter space, whether it be in, think about university off-campus housing, or they're just starting out like in their careers and renting, that group is what's growing the fastest. And really, as we start talking about it, these generations have a lot of specific needs. Now, Generation C is really the only generation, if you look back between 2019, 2020, that has shown a significant increase. But keep in mind that around this time period is really kind of the height of COVID. And this is really where urban revival started really happening. And when you look about a lot of the leasing applications that are out there, you're going to see a big portion coming from these Gen Zers that are coming into this space. And what's interesting about COVID in particular is that that's really kind of what propagated and really accelerated the adoption of this technology. Okay. Now, when we look at technology in particular, we're going to take a little bit step back in time, because if you think about even back into like the 1970s, right? This is where you started to see a little bit more of the Internet of Things coming on board, node-to-node communication between a computer to another computer. Then you saw, Internet Protocol come on board. Then you saw the evolution of the World Wide Web. But now, if you look in the last 10 years, what is becoming more commonplace is this adoption of like touch computing, right? Like everything has to be, touch-free, like iPads, your phones. This has become a common space. People just love that techie stuff. And then also the adoption of voice control, right? I'm going to set my phone up because I'm going to say it right. But everyone loves to say, hey, Siri, answer a random question. Hey, Alexa, turn on my lights. Hey, Alexa, order me a roll of paper towels. It's just becoming a happenstance that we are now adopting that voice control. The other thing that's really changed is how we are using this technology, right? In terms of near field communication, NFC and mobile payments, right? Our phones are now becoming more adaptive to being our wallets, right? So I don't really ever have to get my credit card out or my debit card out. I can now use my phone to either open up a door or do a payment. And really, if you look at these three emerging technologies, this has really kind of shaped some of the solutions that you now see in the space. Okay. So now we're going to talk about what is IoT, because we do get asked it a lot, what is the Internet of Things? And I'm going to start out with this quote by Kevin Ashton. Now, he is what people like to call as the grandfather of the Internet of Things, right? And his opinion is that IoT is really it integrates the interconnectedness of human culture or things with the interconnectedness of digital information and the internet. So that's a lot. My Siri's going off. Sorry. Now, that's a lot to say, but all it's really talking about is the connection of data and information to how people used to use it, right? And it really is kind of transforming how we have now looked at it as technology companies of bringing that to market. Okay. So let's talk about really the language of the Internet of Things, because there's a lot of words and phrases on there. You're going to Google it and people are going to be like, what are they really talking about, right? But as we mentioned a little bit in the beginning, it really comes down to smart technology and anything. It's really about taking more mundane things that have never really been smart and now making them smarter, right? So some of the key things here, if you talk about smart access control, what is that really? That's really about bringing an internet connection to things that are now allowing, as an example, what we're going to talk about later is our video intercoms, right? If you think about gaining access into your building, you might think of an old buzzer system, right? Don't really think about it smart. But now there are modern smart access controls that allow, with the adoption of the internet, a two-way audio, one-way video. You can now have app control, really see what's happening, have residents use their phone to talk to those people before they let them in. Now you got smart technologies I mentioned earlier. That's really about leveraging a connection to your mobile phone, because the reality of the matter is that almost everyone has one now, and the younger demographic that's coming on board, they've just kind of grown up with it, right? And then you talk about smart buildings, right? This is really about delivering a building that has a better way for you as owners to be able to manage not just the people, but your building itself, right? Like, do you want to know the usage of the thermostat? Are people consuming too much energy? Are people not around? The usage of your access points. Examples of that run rampant, and it just depends on the scale of your building, but this is becoming, as you're looking at new building construction, people are already starting to think about how do they design a smarter building using smarter technology. So these are just some examples of the language that we like to say of the Internet of Things. Okay, oops. Before I go on, I think, Alexander, we're going to do our first poll question here.
Okay, just launched the question. How many properties do you own or manage? And I'll give you guys about a minute to respond to one of the three options.
Interested to see what you guys all respond with.
Yeah, are you able to see the results coming in? Not yet. So
No.
I'm the only one who can see it. Ooh,
no, I cannot.
This.
So that's why I'm in suspense, right? I'm just sitting here like.
All right. Well, let's see what people have put. Lauren in the chat says not an owner yet. I like the word yet.
Oh, yet.
You're ahead of it. Yeah, you're ahead of it, Lauren. Okay, let's share the results here.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive. Okay, wow. Pretty impressive. Well, thank you so much. We can see. Okay. Well, now let's talk about, generational demand that is really kind of driving this must-have IoT tech amenities. Okay. So these are really statistics that we kind of pulled in our research about how the different demographic is wanting the adoption, is demanding the adoption of technology, and what they're really willingness to pay. So 1 in 5 Gen Yers, residents are reporting that one of the big things that they feel is, hey, even though I live in these properties, I can feel at times unsafe, right? Especially if you think about older buzzer systems, or depending on how you may just even have key systems, right? Sometimes people are just going to randomly want to hit those buttons and let that pizza guy in, right? And you don't know as a renter, like, who's letting someone in. So safety is becoming, and I think it always has been, right? But Gen Yers in particular, are we getting really concerned about, as I'm picking the building I'm thinking about renting, what level of security is being adopted to make sure that before I make that decision and say, do I want to live here? Because at the end of the day, whether it be a rental property or home, it's your home, right? You want to feel safe there. So something that we need to take into consideration as we're thinking about technology and adoption. Okay. Another big statistic that we have is around the Gen Yers is that 86% of them are willing to pay more per month if you give them some of these smarter technology means, right? And really, it's all driven around more remote capability and the automation of things, right? So if I can either, open up doors without having to actually, get my keys, my fobs or whatever, or the ability for me to actually like pay things automatically, virtually, things like that, they're willing to pay more for that. And the other big thing is that 55% of these Gen Yers are likely to pay more, in particular for high-tech door locks. So if I can use my phone in particular to open up those access points, even more willingness to pay there from that demographic. So these are important to think about as someone mentioned earlier, they're thinking about owning a property in the future, maybe technology you might want to incorporate. Okay. Another big thing is that 61% of these Gen Yers are also more likely to rent a unit because it has electronic access. Very similar to the locks, but what this really means in particular is you think about access control, which is what Himanshu and I really primarily focus on. Those are like those intercoms. Those are more modern means of gaining access. So if I have a guest, you can give them a PIN code, you can give them an app, code to get in. I can have that, as I mentioned earlier, if it's a video intercom in particular, I can have that one-way video, two-way audio conversation. So I have the ability to see who is at that panel, who is at that intercom before I grant them access. So pretty compelling that 61% of these Gen Yers are willing to pay more per rent, okay? And then 63% of them have said that they will move out because of lack of security. So, I mean, think about some younger individuals that are coming in. They might be living away from their family. It's their first time kind of, on their own. Security is extremely important. And that's pretty strong demographic number, 63% that are saying if you don't have enough security means, they're going to want to move out and look for a different property. So think about that as you're thinking about incorporation of technology. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about the Gen Zers, right? This is, as I mentioned, as I like to call them, really, it's the digital natives. Like, I think they actually came out of the womb, possibly with a smartphone or even a tablet. My children fall under this category. And it's funny, I was doing some other webinar a couple of weeks ago, and I made a comment. I don't even think they know what a landline is, if I were to say it, or if they even know what like an old school phone is, right? But in particular, right, this demographic is just, they depend on the internet and high-speed internet, right? So as an example, a couple of weeks ago, we had bad winter storm and the internet wasn't working. I swear my kids were freaking out because they're like, I can't get on, YouTube. So this demographic, like I said, they demand that high-speed internet. They always want to be connected, and they want it in their properties as well. And especially as more people are working remotely, they have more dependency now to have internet connection for they have to work and do their Zoom calls and team calls. And the other thing is that 75% of them are asking if they can have Wi-Fi already pre-installed in their building. And this is kind of a big challenge as you're thinking about your properties, about how do I balance, do I offer that? Or do I just provide the means for them to get connected with, as an example, a Comcast or a Spectrum to get it connected? But they're almost demanding that as I move in, I want the ability to have Wi-Fi and high-speed Wi-Fi, right? Okay, so let's talk about really the value of IoT technology for property. I want to make sure, give me a second, that we don't have a full question again. No, I think it's still time. Sorry about that. Just want to make sure. Now let's talk about the value of IoT for you as a property owner or a manager, because this is important. Obviously, you are the key audience here today and things that you need to take into consideration. As we kind of discussed, really, residents of every generation say that an IoT-enabled apartment is important. And it's important enough that we found that 1 in 4 residents is willing to pay up to $31 more a month to get, for them to get that. And that's a pretty sizable dollar amount per month. And I feel like this keeps growing as you keep adding more to your property. But really, as we mentioned earlier, really the IoT ability is the ability for people to interact with that human intervention that really delivers a lot of tremendous value to you as property owners and managers. So some things that the Internet of Things or smart technology provides you is automation, right? Think about taking that mundane things of, did people pay their rent? Have I onboarded people manually versus now I can go on a cloud platform, add all my residents, add them, delete them automatically from anywhere you have an internet connection. It automates that process. You can then send that information maybe to the next person in your company to say, hey, get them set up for onboarding, whatever may be. It really allows that cloud structure, the cloud that we're going to talk about, to really help you in that efficiency of you managing these properties. The other big thing is collaboration, right? So this allows you to not just like collaborate with your employees, like, hey, I might have an individual that does the tours in the building. I might have someone from the maintenance perspective. It allows you to now share that information real time, right? I need someone to go down. There's a plumbing issue on third floor, and also allows you the ability to actually talk and collaborate within your resident group, right? You want to stay connected with your residents. You want to see what's going on, what's the concerns. It allows for further collaboration, okay? And visibility. I think this is the biggest thing. The one thing that you're going to see as we're going to talk about is really the increased adoption of video, of data, of events. When you now have that cloud information with real time, you can now stay up to date with what's going on. Are my doors open? Are they closed? Is access events being overused in a certain area? Do you have a video event of something that happened? It now allows you to be more adaptive in terms of how you're managing your property, but also gives you that flexibility. Say, if I'm not on site, I could still see what's going on and take some action, okay? And really, security, I think, is key, right? I think this is really about how the data allows you to see, are there people that are overusing access codes? As I mentioned earlier, is a door open? Did someone, as an example, break the front door? You know, really the Internet of Things or smart technology is really giving you a better sense of security for your property, but also then to your residents that are willing to pay more and are demanding it. Okay. Oops. No, I skipped around here. Now, what does this really mean then for you, right? This is really about investing in the smart technology. Is going to allow you to increase your rental revenues, right? Because you can do this in small means, but it can bring great impact for your residents, for your property. Obviously, the statistics show that people are asking for it and there's a willingness to pay. And the biggest thing is really improvements of your operational efficiencies. We all know that if you own a property, you know, and if you have multiple properties, as the poll showed, you have a lot of things that you're juggling, right? And you need to be working on the things that are generating probably the most, which is, you know, retention and you know, payments. So you don't need to be worrying about, oh, onboarding, offboarding. This allows you, with the cloud solutions and the IoT solutions, ability to really allow you to manage your operations a lot more efficiently. And then also it allows you to really attract and retain these residents. Just by bringing in some of those modern touch points, people have a more willingness to want to come rent from you. And of course, retain them for the longer sense, especially if you bring in some of the factors around the security, right? You want to make sure it's more secure, but modern and convenience. So these are really the big value drivers that, you know, you can get from introduction of IoT and smart technology. Okay. And here's another statistic, right? 33%, you know, of insurance premiums have increased in communities since 2020. Now, this is really, you know, the reduced risk that you can introduce from smart technologies implementations has really lowered those premiums. So over time, the introductions of these smart technologies that are bringing more amenities, lowering your security risk, allows you to also manage more of those insurance premiums over time. Okay. Okay, so I think we're going to do another poll question here. I think this is good. Sorry, we didn't rehearse this.
Yeah, sure. We can do it. Let's go ahead and launch that. Where do you go to get up-to-date industry information? I'm curious about this one too, because we put out, you know, our newsletter. I hope all of you are subscribed to that. So all of you should be saying newsletter, because it should be ours. But the other ones I think are really good too. I mean, if you're, you know, in social media, if you are, you know, following people, a YouTube in the chat from Al, that's a good one. There's definitely some really helpful videos out there for entrepreneurs and investors.
Yeah, please put them in the chat. We're always kind of curious, like, you know, do you follow Facebook groups or Reddit? Like, you know, we're just trying to understand, how do you try to get your information outside of joining these amazing webinars from AAOA?
All right. Looks like I'm going to try to see if at least half of you have responded. I'll share the results. There we go. All right.
Oh, okay. Yep. Industry associations and podcasts and newsletters.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. Okay, let's talk about now really, your peers and how they're kind of adopting IoT and smart technology. So the reality of the matter is that, MDUs are already starting to introduce this, and there's a really wide variety of how you can do this, from very small means to really large means. And really what I think is the really basics of it is like taking things that aren't necessarily smart and making them smart. So it's funny, we was doing this research project last year about it was Samsung and smart refrigerators. Who would have really known, hey, we've got smart refrigerators? But think about it, right? Like now, most people, especially around COVID, spend so much time just sitting in their kitchens, right? That this is kind of like the flank of your little kitchen area. And the smart refrigerators not only just tell you what's in your fridge, right? Like, am I running low on milk or whatever? But hey, I can put now video links into my garage. Is my garage open? I can have it control my Netflix. I can make a call through this smart refrigerator. It becomes more of a piece of information outside of just a utilitarian piece of storing my goods that are cold, right? So it's kind of interesting how smart refrigerators are being adopted. I think the biggest and easiest one is smart outlets, right? And those come in very different ways. You can either get, the little plug-in ones, or you can actually like rewire your apartments. But those are really, really nice to just bring some smart technology to your entire building. Smart locks are probably the biggest adoption because these are obviously every unit you have, locks that get into the units, but now it allows you to now put PIN codes, or if you give people special fobs, or of course, if they're adopted via your mobile phone, this is probably the easiest way that people have started to adapt smart locks into their buildings. And as I mentioned earlier, smart access control. This is really where Himanshu and I kind of come into play. More and more buildings are starting to adopt a more modern cloud-based means of managing that access to all of your entry points, whether it be from the front entrance to maybe inside you have a laundry room, a gym room, a pool room, whatever it may be. It now gives you not just the visibility of like who's coming in and out, but now you've got that video capture and app control. And then there are, smart thermostats, like how many people don't maybe have a Nest in their home. It's probably the one that you see the most where people are, wanting to remotely manage their thermostat controls. Or if you're going on vacation, make sure you keep that, air conditioner low. Or like my husband, who likes to keep this place freezing cold, he will keep it really low and he'll wait till we get home from work or from school and then try to turn the heat up. And then smart hubs in particular, those are pretty fun and easy, right? Those are the Alexas, the Siris. They can control so many different things. And there's just an adoption of technology worldwide that continues to grow, from property management systems to all of these little introduction, little hub things that you see out there. Okay, so now let's talk about your peers and using it. Oh, this is from Parks Associates. They do an amazing job of giving a lot of research in this space. But some of the interesting things that they've shared is like 34% of, multifamily managers reported that they're offering, smart home devices to their residents. So yeah, it doesn't look like a lot, but it continues to grow. And as more and more technology gets more affordable and gets more advanced, it's going to continue to allow you to now introduce smart technology into your property. And another big one that's been introduced is 57% reported introducing lighting control into some of their largest property. Because think about, I'm sure one of your biggest expenses is just, your utilities and lighting. So the fact that almost 60% of them have reported some sort of lighting control is pretty impressive. And then, of course, energy management and monitoring, it's 26%, but this is a big expense for you, right? Especially in those common areas. So the fact that you can introduce some smart technology around those big expenses is growing in that space. Okay, here's some more stats, right? 13% are starting to now introduce the smart hubs in the actual units, right? So as you're, bringing on your residents, you can already give them that flexibility so they can have some of that control. And now this is growing, and it's kind of interesting as we talk to some of our our peers that are in more that smart technology, smart rent, space, this is kind of what they use as their little lifeblood to control a lot of things, and it's continued to grow. And 44% we said properties are using some sort of energy management, smart devices such as thermostat and lighting that they're bringing into their properties. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to hand this over to Himanshu, who's now going to walk you over some of what are the top 5 things that residents are really going to value.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. So, yeah, as Rebecca mentioned, what we will be talking now about are like, what are those top 5 IoT products that you can start applying in your properties now? Again, if you search the term IoT, there are like 100 different categories of products. So we have tried to simplify it into top 5, and then there are more that you can go off and research as well. Next slide. So at number 5, we have smart power outlets, right? So these are, you have your regular power outlet, you put this plug on top of it, and then suddenly your power outlet is smarter now, right? And what does smarter mean? You can control it via the cloud, you can use your app, you can use smart speaker like Alexa to switch on and off lights. I have lights, which can change colors based on the time of the day. So things like those can be done using a smart power outlet. These are available in the market, $20, $30. And then these are like small enhancements you can do on your property by default so that renters don't have to buy it. And then it's just available for people when they move in. Next slide. So next we have the security system, right? So the study shows that 75% of Gen Y rate safety of the building and the neighborhood as very important when they are researching like whether to rent at a particular place or not, right? So, and what's happening on the IoT space is a lot of the security systems, whether those are smart intercoms, cameras, locks, they all are kind of coming together in this like seamless way to provide you and your renters like this additional security system, right? So that's kind of number 4 top amenity that you should research in and look at to add on your property. At number, next slide, Rebecca. At number 3, we have smart thermostat, right? So Rebecca already talked about it. Most of you already know there are a lot of these smart thermostats that are available now that can do many things, including switching on and off, setting schedules, and some are even to the extent where they can understand the weather outside and based on that try to manage the HVAC, right? So if the switches were about automating your power plug, this is about automating your HVACs, right? So at number 4, we have keyless entry. So these are smart locks, smart readers, right? Where you can use a fob or your smartphones or even Apple Watch and like other smart watches to now lock and unlock the door more seamlessly. You can use like other cloud native applications such as remotely unlocking the doors. So this is basically how can you provide an amenity where there is one less key to worry about, which translates to better experience for the resident. But our studies also show that one of the biggest pain points for property owners and property managers is managing keys. It's 9 p.m., the resident has lost his or her key, and they are calling you or the property manager and saying, hey, I'm locked out. Can you come to the property and open the door for me? But like having these kind of smart locks make it much easier to manage those kind of pain points that property managers and investors have, and then making it seamless for residents as well. And at number 1, we have video intercoms. So video intercoms are basically an extension of locks is how I would put it. But this is an upgrade to video doorbells, right? So this is where someone outside of the building can look at all the residents which are living inside that building, call them directly either on their phone, on their or like on the app, and then from there the residents can take action and then either open the door or not open the door. And because it has video, it provides that enhanced security to make sure, okay, I can actually see who the person is, and then take a decision whether you want to open the door or not open the door. So from our, again, research that we have done, 25% of the residents would pay up to $31 a month for these kind of amenities, right? So as Rebecca was mentioning, the Gen Y, Gen Z are really looking at these technologies and the value it brings to their lifestyle. So what I want to do is I want to go a little bit deeper on the intercom side, because that's one thing me and Rebecca have been spending many, many years on. And I'm very passionate, especially on how do people enter buildings and how do goods enter buildings. And you may ask, why now, right? Why do we need smart intercom now and not say 5 years or 10 years back? And the fact is two things. One, COVID has changed a lot of things for us. But in general, the e-commerce and the advent of internet is changing the expectation from a building entrance. So let me walk you through some of those, right? Food deliveries. I would just go to a restaurant and grab food before, say 5 years back, but now I just press my button and the Uber driver is here. But then how does the Uber driver go from outside of the building all the way to the unit? That's a big pain point, is what we hear today. E-commerce, there are so many packages getting delivered now versus say even a couple of years before. And all those packages have issues of being left outside the building. There are security concerns around that. The FedEx guy is always trying to figure out where to keep the packages. So there is a lot of messiness which has started to happen on the building entrance because of e-commerce. Third is service professionals. In the good old days, we would just have our plumber and we would just call our electrician to fix things on our property. But because of many new apps coming into the market now, we are just looking at who's the best, cheapest person who can do a job for us and then call them on the property. The problem is how to give them access, sometimes even remotely, right? I'm sitting somewhere else, maybe I'm on my vacation, and then there is a plumber standing outside of my property. Using things like smart intercoms, you can easily allow them to enter the property and then do their job without, being at the property and then, managing all of those things, either yourself or via your property manager, who may have additional charges for these kind of activities. And then the last one is short-term rental. It's happening a lot in single-family residential space, but we see the trend that even in apartments and even smaller buildings, a lot of renters want to now put their properties on short-term rentals like Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO. So while there is a discussion around, is that a good thing for a renter to do or not? That's in our mind, is a choice that you as property investors and managers have to make. But if you have these IoT-enabled smart devices, it will make your job easier if you want to allow that for your renters, and then increase the value of your property for a renter as well. So these are all the new things which have been happening in past couple of years, because of which now is a time to upgrade your the front entrance of your door and other entrances of the doors, which were not the case, say 5 or even 10 years back. And then for a property owner perspective, they have challenges, right? Which some of that I already talked about. How do I manage all the common access? Not even in one property, as some of you highlighted in the survey, people have 5 or 6 properties. Now, how do you manage all of those in a single dashboard is a challenge. How do I proactively allow guests and maintenance access? So I already kind of talked about that. But then how do I identify and document culprits, right? So maybe something happened at the property. There was tailgating event which happened at the property, or maybe you have some other property rules around residents and you want to make sure all the property policies are adhered to based on your needs. So you can have a good way to document those things if you have a smarter technology on your front of your door. Next slide, please. And then we also, regularly talk to property managers, property owners that, hey, I mean, most of the intercoms today are old intercoms, audio only. There is no video. There is no, like, they cannot use a smartphone. So we were like, what would you like to have in an intercom solution? And what features would you like to have? And these are kind of the top features that came out from many of our researches. People want easy way to install, right? So I don't want to have a lot of wiring. I already have Wi-Fi, so maybe I want to connect to Wi-Fi. I want residents to be able to use their phone so that this whole issue of managing keys is kind of taken care of. I want to do that automatically, right? And Rebecca also mentioned, how do we easily add residents, remove residents, add their guests, etc. And then many of you, we understand, already use existing property manager software. So how does like this existing intercom seamlessly interface with this property management software so that there is like less work for you to do and like it works just seamlessly? So next slide. So there are many solutions available. At LiftMaster, we have been working on our own access solutions for many, many years. And this would be an example of that, right? So an intercom, which is on front of your building, can work with your smartphone, can work with your smartwatch, provide remote unlock, video calling. So that's on the resident side. While on the property manager side, it provides a single dashboard to see who is at the property, managing all the access in a very seamless way, and even go say 1 week or 2 weeks back and have a video, documentation of who entered the property, what happened at the property, in case you are in that situation and you need to check. So that was a very specific example of an intercom. And we talked about like these 5, products that we think are very valuable for you and your residents. So now I want to talk about how do you get started on this journey of enabling IoT amenities to your properties? Because we not only wanted to tell you all the products, awesome products available, but how do you even get started? So this is what I will be talking next. So the first one is begin with Wi-Fi, right? When we had bulbs and electricity at home, the basic requirement there was we need to have electrical wiring so that our bulbs and lighting can work at home. Similarly, for IoT, what is the most important thing is you need to have ubiquitous, high quality internet available on your property. So that's what we recommend, like begin with Wi-Fi, like invest in good property-wide Wi-Fi, because most of these smart devices are Wi-Fi enabled, and then that's how they connect to the cloud. There are many solutions available. We would recommend work with a trusted Wi-Fi provider who knows how to bring a Wi-Fi in a whole property, which is very different than just doing a Wi-Fi in your home, right? Because properties are much bigger. Sometimes there are multiple floors. So there are nuances that you need to take expert advice on. And then I think Rebecca already mentioned that it's not only a way for you to provide IoT services, but a lot of your own residents are now working from remote, right? So a study showed like 30% of people are like starting to work from home. So there also is an opportunity for you to hone in on that, like provide those services. And then maybe there is some revenue sharing model that you can work out with the resident as well. What we recommend you avoid is having those revenue share agreements with your ISP, right? Because that's losing money on the table. You would rather work it out with your residents and have that kind of setup. So begin with Wi-Fi. So once you have Wi-Fi, we would recommend start small, right? Start with your smart switches, smart locks, thermostats, smart access hubs. So these are like some affordable ways, like less than $100 or sometimes like maybe less than $200, through which you can start to bring new amenities in your property, which are like IoT enabled. Next slide. And then third is keyless entry, right? So keyless entry, I already talked about smart locks, smart intercoms, basically managing or automating like the access of your buildings and also of your units. And then there are a lot of solutions available from readers to mobile credential enabled devices that can be used through your app, through your existing landline phones, etc. If any landlines exist these days or anyone uses that. But so go ahead and think about how you can have keyless entry for your resident would be like the third way you can bring IoT-enabled amenities. Next slide, please. And the last one is if you are ready to take that plunge and like go all in on IoT, we would recommend upgrade your complete system, right? So this is taking your building to the next level by having all of the experiences that we talked about, because as you know, Rebecca was sharing the studies, industry studies, like that's what people are expecting you of. And then, you know, that would be like the highest order thing. And we have already talked about all the things that can be upgraded in that space. Next slide, please. So in terms of providing that total solution, in terms of access, LiftMaster has been in the market for decades and decades, building garage door openers and gate operators to provide access to your gates and garage doors. But we also, like lesser known fact is that we also have all the access solutions around video intercom and like other smart door controllers that I will be quickly talking about. So the value that, you know, LiftMaster brings here is years of knowledge building hardware, but then providing a single app for you and your residents to control all your doors, gates, garages, basically any type of property and access. You know, we have a solution for that while providing a single app for your residents and a single app for you to manage all the properties. Next slide, please. Here is a quick rundown of what all solutions we provide. In terms of smart intercom, we have large screen, medium screen, and small screen. I think there's a myth that most of these intercoms and technologies are only for bigger properties. What we have done is really looked at independent landlord, duplexes, triplexes as well, and see if we can build a solution around that, right? So for example, this middle product called Smart Video Intercom S is perfect for like those smaller apartments, you know, maybe 2 to 10 kind of unit buildings. They may have a gate or maybe a single family with a gate. And like this is a very good product for you to think about and get started on your IoT journey if you choose to kind of automate your access solutions. So those are the intercoms, but there are other ways you can also automate other doors of your property. So things like package rooms, gyms, pools, elevators, right? So there are many things that are on a property that can also be automated for access. And we have like smart door controllers and smart access hubs that can be used for, you know, those kind of common amenities, which are not the front door, but like maybe a back door or a pool inside your property. And then how do you automate access for them? Next slide, please. So so that was on the hardware side, but you still need on the property manager side, right? So for a property manager side, we have a solution called MyQ Community Web Portal, right? So this would be your dashboard where you can add, delete residents, manage guests, view all the video logs, and basically integrate with other third-party PMS solutions you may have, a single dashboard for you to manage all your access. And not only for one properties, but for like many, many properties. Like even if you have 10 or 20 properties, you can manage all of them easily and then manage it through your the web portal. And then the last is the resident side of things. Rebecca, next slide, please. So last is the resident side of things, right? What residents get is an app that they can use to remotely unlock the door, They can see who's at the door before unlocking. They can automate some of the access, right? So they can say, okay, a cleaner is coming on Saturday from 5 to 6. And then you can provide them access only for that time and provide like temporary door codes. And then maybe there's a delivery happening, right, on a weekend, and your resident want to go out. Now you can give your property access to those delivery people only for a certain limited time, and then automate those kind of workflows as well. So yeah, in conclusion, 61% of Gen Y and Gen Z indicate that technology is extremely important to them, and the way they are choosing where they want to live is, this is a big factor for them. Many of them are willing to pay more to get some of these services as well. So, if you had to remember one message, it would be to research more on these IoT technologies and see how they can help you and your residents live more effectively and then operate your properties more effectively. I think there's another poll question. If you could help answer, how many units does your property have? That would be an interesting one as well, because we are always curious about the audience space, which has been here today.
Yeah, and I think just chiming in here, something that is really neat about what you're offering is, if any of you are answering 2 to 9 units, and I see a lot of you are, these solutions can work for you too. So that's what I think is so cool about where we are in tech, that it's not just for, these big property management companies. If you're marking 2 to 9, you're still able to provide these pieces of tech. They're not that expensive anymore. They're not that hard to implement anymore like they used to be. So it's less commitment as well. All right, I'll go ahead and show you some of the results here.
We lose the poll?
Yeah. So it looks like about 60% of you are in the 2 to 9 unit per property, 23% in 10 to 49, and 18% 50 plus in property that you might own. So that's really helpful. It really can work for all of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There's the point. I missed it.
Oh, oops. Actually, that was me. I think I delayed on that. Okay. Now everyone can see it. Good.
Yeah. So maybe we can pause there and see if there are any questions.
Well, so I just want to clarify too, Himanshu had shown that smallest unit there in particular, and I'm going to go back to it a bit. Given the fact that this audience is really, got a lot of these units with 2 to 9, when we were actually designing our whole platform, we had certain applications in mind. And what we found is that the biggest challenge is in that smaller end, right? Because you don't maybe have the big backing of these huge property management companies, right? You don't have these big real investment. You're doing your own research, your own investment. And when we did this smaller unit, it was specifically designed for that 2 to 9 MDU. So you now have that video access. It can control the door. You can give your residents app control. It gives you now that power to see, all your residents in a dashboard, all those activity events and those video events as well. So, and it's not that expensive. And actually at the end, I know, Alexandra, you're going to talk about the discount we're offering on that particular unit, just to make sure that you guys are aware. There you go. In there. We are offering, just so you know, $300 off if you are interested, or if you want to learn more about that unit or learn more about our portfolio in general. Feel free to, opt in there and see if you want some more information on that.
All right, great. I'll leave that up. And I think we might be ready for Q&A unless you have anything else you want to add on, Rebecca.
We just wanted to thank everyone for this session. I hope you guys found it valuable. And like I said, want to take whatever time that's left to answer any questions that may have come up. I can't really see them, so you might have to help us, Alexandra.
Yeah, absolutely. I can go through some of them. Nataya asking, is your smart lock linked to electricity or Wi-Fi? I think we might have answered Wi-Fi, but are there more options than just the Wi-Fi connection?
So most of our devices in particular, you really just need three things. They do need power. They are electronic, so they do need power. They do need an internet connection. And depending on the solution, we have a couple different options. Most of them all work off Ethernet as a baseline. You've got Wi-Fi, and then our Smart Access Hub, which is a really unique piece, also works off cellular. So if you don't have, let's say, an internet connection, you can get it connected via cellular. And then you need it really connected to some sort of a door strike, right? Whatever is actually used to open your point, whether it's your door or a gate, you need that connection to open up that access point.
Great. And Tina asking, what do you suggest for families, many people to one apartment?
Himanshu, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so let me make sure I understand the question correctly. So the scenario is it's a family living in an apartment, like a single unit. So what solutions we would recommend? So for access, if you have like multiple units in that building, like the front of the building is an intercom solution, right? So that's how your delivery people, maintenance people can talk to you. But if you're talking about just your unit, then smart locks is a better way to go, because smart locks will provide you access inside your unit, right? So maybe you have kids at home or their friends, and then you can automate some of those access through a smart lock on the unit door over there.
So instead of making 5 copies of a key for the whole family, you would have just one app that the whole family has on their phone, mm-hmm. and then they use that to get inside instead of a key. Yeah. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. And you can extend that app to your friends on temporary basis so that they can have access, right? Maybe your in-laws or parents. Exactly.
Yeah. Tina asking a good question. She's concerned for seniors that are, tech limited, and how maybe some of your clients might have approached that in the past.
So just so you know, our systems will still dial a phone number, right? So if you don't have someone who wants to adapt a mobile phone, you could still have that capability. One thing that has changed dramatically is the support structure for just the physical telephone line. But now everything kind of goes off a SIP or a VoIP. It's a voice over internet, but can still dial a phone number, right? So you don't have to necessarily give everyone the mobile technology. These devices also have PIN code access. So if someone doesn't want to use a mobile phone, they can enter in their PIN code, but it can also dial them as a guest and say, hey, I'm here, let me in, and they'll get a voice call in essence.
Okay, mm-hmm. That's helpful. I think my grandma can use her phone to talk on it at least. So,
right. So it would be just a regular call, how you would get a call instead of an app. The other thing I want to mention is for senior citizens who are guests, right? So they are coming to the intercom, trying to call someone in. We have also made sure the UI of these panels that works for them, right? It's intuitive. They can easily navigate and then call someone inside the building as well.
So it's pretty foolproof. And Al asking something to piggyback on that is, what happens if the Wi-Fi is down, or what happens if your phone dies or the app isn't working? Do you still need a key? How do you get in?
So for our devices, they all have onboard memory. So if your internet does go down, we store about 50,000 different events, right? So it's going to still capture those video events. Did someone use a PIN code? Did someone gain access? And then once the internet recovers, it pushes back up to the cloud. So you'll have all of those access events recorded. So we try to protect for that, because obviously internet does go down all the time. What was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
What if your phone dies or the app doesn't work?
If your phone dies, of course, the device still has PIN code access, right? So most residents are still going to be issued some sort of a PIN code. So you'd obviously then have to go to the panel itself, but, that's kind of like, you got to make sure you charge your phone, right? Things do happen.
What if there's a power outage?
Now, power, this comes back to more the installation and the design. And what we always like to tell people is, like, think about your emergency plan, right? So do you have battery backup? Are you going to have a lot of these systems when they're installed? they consider adding in a battery backup system, depending on how long, or a generator system, how long you think you need to have your main systems running, right? I think your access system is just as critical as if you had your power system to keep your whatever, your generator going, right? So you have to think about those things as you're going into the design of your building. It's a great question.
Okay, great. And is any of this, can you finance it, or is it tax deductible, or are there any government subsidies or anything like that that you know of for this type of tech?
You know, we're actually looking into that. There has been, obviously with a lot of certain areas in the major cities with crime, we're starting to see a lot more subsidies of video enabled solutions with some, you know, credits or whatever may be. What we're trying to look into, see if our solutions meet that, but there are some in there, right? Like I know, for example, I reside in the city of Oak Brook area, so Chicago, Illinois. I know there's certain areas where they've been doing a lot of that. I think Himanshu, you said you're in San Francisco, you've seen something similar as well. Mm-hmm. So we're going to continue to look into that, but I can't give you with confidence level that we're aware of like every sort of subsidy out there.
Great, yeah, and I think it is tax deductible. Definitely check with your CPA and see if that's something that you can add on to that. Reet having a good question here about who will install these devices and service them. Do you have installation services or dealers?
We do. So we sell through channels, and we do have a dealer network base that we can recommend. So if you're interested, and by the way, I should probably go to that slide. Feel free. We have our contact info, LinkedIn, whatever. If you're interested, reach out to us. We can connect you with an installing dealer, because just like anything, you're going to need to get it installed, but also just maintenance, right? Is everything working? The other big thing about LiftMaster is we have a team that supports you pre and post install. So we have a customer success manager that can help you get onboarded, make sure you're comfortable with the system, make sure that your residents understand how to use the app. So we will make sure that you're in essence supported from the start of the design as you're thinking about it, and make sure you're happy after.
That's wonderful. Yeah, Ali was also asking, can I schedule a time with a LiftMaster consultant? So, yes, you certainly.
Yes. Yeah. If you reach out in the chat, we'll either contact you, or of course, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, reach out, and then we can connect.
Great. Yeah, Ali, I will definitely send your information along. Can we share? I think my microphone did a little bit. There. Okay, I think I got it. Okay, so let's move on to the next one here. How much would each cost, or a bundle cost per door? So, Natalia has a good question. I would add on to that. Is there discounts or anything like that for buying, a bunch at a time for all your doors?
Himanshu, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. I mean, so in terms of pricing, we have like multiple options available. Like if you buy in bundle, if you buy multiple years of subscription, etc. So I think the answer is a little bit nuanced, but if you could reach out to us, and we can help you, walk you through exactly what would it price. But in terms of the device pricing, as Rebecca was showing, we have devices all the way from just a couple of $100 to like thousands of dollars for your property, right? Because we wanted to make sure it's kind of, the technology is affordable for all sorts of properties.
Hey, Tunde asking, people with how is data privacy ensured with all these IoT devices?
So that's a great question. Cybersecurity, I think, is paramount to any sort of cloud-based system. And, we have a robust cybersecurity program behind our devices and all of our data, obviously, because you are going in the cloud, as we say. And I think it's always important as you're looking at your options, right? Whoever you're working with, to ask those questions, because it is your information, right? Your resident information. But if you want to learn more about it, we can get back to you on there and put the specific link of how we have our data privacy information.
Okay.
Yeah, in general, sorry, just to add, in general, I'll say like the security technology has matured a lot on how a smart device talks to a cloud, how a cloud talks to a cloud, right? So that's how most of the banks work. That's how your Apple Wallet works today. So the technology has evolved a lot, and we make sure that we are on cutting edge of those security protocols and standards to make sure, from a security perspective, we are kind of in line.
Yes, very important. Judy asking, where are you located? My properties are in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Any chance you can serve us here in the boondocks?
So we have installing dealers throughout the entire country. So reach out to us and we can find you somewhere, I'm sure, even in the boondocks.
Yes, I don't know if all of you know this, but LiftMaster is a huge company. So of all the companies, they are not a small shop at all. They are providing a solution for small landlords. And what's great about it is they can do that anywhere because they have all those resources from their parent company. So that is a really nice aspect of it, I think. And also Reed asking, how is the monthly subscription charges tiered? Do we have to get one subscription for each address?
No, we can do a poll depending if you have multiple properties. And this is where it's good for you to talk and reach out to us because we can give you some pricing options. We can also have you pay annually. We can have you pay monthly. We have a lot of flexibility in terms of our payment options to make sure that you have affordable options to introduce into your properties.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Cynthia made a comment that I think is maybe worth bringing up. She says, the problem with all these technologies is I would maybe put something in today and tomorrow the technologies would change. So it might be difficult for us to manage. I need something very simplified. Do you guys have any response to that?
I think someone else asked that question as well. One thing to consider is whenever you're buying a device, look at what technologies are inside that device, right? So if it is kind of a really old technology like POTS, landline-based intercom would be an example. Those have been figured out after like many decades, right? But things like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, like there is so much of devices which have been built around that those are like mature technologies now. So yeah, that's definitely one thing for you to consider is, and then we do consider during our product development is we only take technologies which are mature, widely available, and will be there for like multiple decades. But yeah, I mean, that's the nature of technologies. Every like couple of decades, things change, but we try to make sure we are compatible with like the most prevalent technologies. And that would be one advice for you to look at for any IoT device, right? To think of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris asking, can you still have a key entry with the smart video intercom? Like if he wanted to just keep the keys for the doors and then maybe later switch out for smart door locks, but keep the gate with the smart video intercom.
So our devices don't actually have a physical key connection to it, but obviously if you want your front door and you still want to have physical keys, that's up to you. And depending if you have that door strike trigger, we could still at least monitor that access point being used, but not physically to the intercom. Like there's no actual key that you would actually use on the device itself, if that makes sense.
But like you could still have physical keys for your door, like your front door, but then the main gate can be automated or
absolutely
smart. Yeah.
You could do it in tiers. And a lot of people do that, right? They kind of have a phased approach. And one thing I will say about our sales force is that we really try to be consultants in this nature, asking you and working with you on like, what exactly do you want to do now? And maybe like you can work up with a plan to kind of get you to full access, full cloud solutions, because we know it's not an easy undertaking, right? Like you got to think about the budget and how you're going to map that out. So this is why it's great to talk to our LiftMaster sales members. They will help work with you on that.
That's great. Yeah. Al in the chat mentioned that he did that himself. He, did it for one property and then he started adding more properties.
Great.
So even doing one property at a time
absolutely
can be helpful. And then I have a great question from Lisa. Do either of the LiftMaster video intercom systems have a directory that visitors can scroll through to find the tenant?
Yes, that's exactly what it does. So when you go up to the unit, obviously you as the landlord property manager would build out your directory of who wants to be visible. And that's exactly what it'll do. So either you can, this is how you would call your resident in a way, right? So you'll scroll down and say, I want to find Alexandra Alvarado, right? and it'll call that unit and say, hey, I'm here. Can you let me in?
Great.
And if you go on our website, you can see like what the experience looks like. We have like some visuals.
Videos.
Yeah.
Great. Aaron saying, with all the new statewide greenhouse gas mandates, it sounds like you might be in California, Aaron. I'm surprised that real-time indoor air quality or energy use sensors didn't make your top 5 list. Do you see this changing down the road?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have HVACs, right? Smart homes, like heating systems are kind of the biggest consumer of energy in a home. So that's why smart thermostats are top of the list. How they talk with sensors and kind of optimize your energy consumption even more, that's definitely which is a trend we are also seeing.
Okay, great. Yeah, Aaron's from Baltimore, so I didn't know they had that out there. That's wonderful. Cynthia asking, does the LiftMaster team would they physically come out to check what is needed? I guess as part of the consultation process.
Yeah, so we have an entire business development team members, and that's one of the things that they will do. They will help with site walks, as we like to call them, but it's also mainly in coordination with our installing dealers, right? Because they're going to be the ones actually doing the installation, but they can go in and do your site walk, especially if you have a larger complex, so to speak, right? We do solutions all the way from like a large gated community entrance where you might have the gate entrance, you have your community room. I mean, mega communities, right? So a building property is no different. It's just a smaller scale, but we will do all those site walks, yes, and provide you some consultants suggestions there.
Okay, that's fantastic. So I think that wraps up questions. I don't see any more coming through. You guys did a great job answering everyone's questions, and thank you all for sticking around and asking such good questions. I will send everyone the recording tomorrow along with Rebecca and Himanshu's information, and you guys can connect with them to get to their sales team and schedule a consultation. I'll also email you the $300 discount if you didn't mark yes already on the poll or registration question. If you did mark yes, then I'll let the team know so they can expedite your offer even faster and reach out to you soon. Let's see. Oh, one more question. Please ask this question before we go. Okay, I will, Al. Do you see MyQ coming out with an app update to include the same Tesla proximity ability anytime soon for the iPhone app? We need it. So I'm not sure. I'm not too familiar actually with how Tesla works with your system.
So that's really the other side of our team business, and they are working on it. So just keep following our pages, keep following LiftMaster. It's all coming. I can't speak to be honest with you, because I'm not part of that team. But yes, they are working on it.
All right. Well, that's good to know. So thank you again, Rebecca and Himanshu, for coming on. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Everyone.